कृष्ण बोलना ठीक है।
Okay, my put money in.
Preeti Vilasni Mataji, are you there?
Yes, I am there. Yes.
Okay. So should we start now?
Yeah, it's exact timing. Yeah.
It's live and everything.
Thank you, Vanita Mataji. You can start.
Okay. Hare Krishna. A warm welcome to all of you for this Bhagavad Gita course. So we are trying to learn the secret of all secrets, a book that is not just a mere book, a living friend, and is the most famous book that's been commented by so many acharyas and so many devotees. So we would begin this course by requesting the blessings of all the previous teachers of this great science. So let me begin by offering prayers. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Etkripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Okay, so let me introduce myself. I'm Lalitangi Radha Devi Dasi. So which means that I'm practicing, the name means that I'm a servant of Srimati Radharani, who's the consort and internal energy of Lord Sri Krishna. And I've been learning this great literature, Bhagavad Gita, since my days in school. And it has helped me many times in my life. So what I'm going to share with is what I have learned through the teachings of great teachers who have benevolently over the many years taught me this science by their fantastic and illuminating classes on Bhagavad Gita. So I'm just trying to repeat a small bit of it, just like, you know, if they are all suns and I'm like a moon trying to get the light and reflect. But I'm doing this as a service to the Lord because this has helped me a lot, and this is a humble attempt that I would like to share the secret of the science with all of you. And I hope this you also get benefited like how I'm benefiting from this science. So we will have I will be sharing with you some things that I learned till about 45 minutes from now, and then there will be question and answer session for the last 15 minutes. So if you have any questions, you can note it down. You can even send it in the chat, or we can unmute you and you can ask the questions. Basically, the whole of Bhagavad Gita is question and answers. So this forum is meant for asking questions. So I encourage all of you to note down if you have any questions during the course of this presentation. So what is a Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavad comes from the word Bhagavan. Bhagavan is one who has Bhaga, or all opulences. Like Putravan is a word who has Putra or child. Dhanavan is a word who has Dhana or wealth. Bhagyavan is a word Bhagya, who is very fortunate. So Bhagavan, Parashara Muni, the father of Veda Vyas, has described Bhagavan as one who is possessing all opulences, especially if they can be broadly categorized into 6 in number, who is the most beautiful, most wealthy, most powerful, most wise, most renounced, and beauty, wealth, power, wisdom, renunciation, and most famous. So this is Bhagavad, means of Bhagavan, of the God, of God. If I mean, we will learn it in detail about Bhagavan, or who is God, but I'm just telling you in short. Gita is a song. So God is supremely beautiful and attractive that his words, when he talks, it's like a song. So where does Bhagavad Gita come in our Vedic literatures? So we have the Mahabharata. Maha means great. Bharata is a story of Bharata Varsha, or the continent, or the whole world at that point of time, which was named after a great few great kings who had the name Bharat. So the whole world was under one reign, and it was called Bharata. And Maha is great. So the great story of Bharata Varsha, or this whole world, and Bhagavad Gita comes in there. Just to give you a quick review of where Bhagavad Gita fits in the Mahabharata. I assume many of you may know the story or history of Mahabharata, but I'm just repeating it because that's how traditionally it is done. So Mahabharata, so in a nutshell, it's a war between two cousins. The Pandavas is a son of Pandu. They are 5 in number: Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadeva. They're always noble and great souls, always forgiving and saintly, and they're following the path of Dharma, and that is what they represent. And they have cousins, so they are 100 in number, and they are called Kauravas, and they are headed by Duryodhana. So Pandavas, and the eldest of the Pandava, Yudhishthira, was supposed to be the next king, because he's the eldest of all the cousins. But the caretaker of the throne, Dhritarashtra, his uncle, didn't want to give this kingdom to his nephew, who is Yudhishthira, who is the rightful heir of that kingdom. And his son Duryodhan, followed by his 99 brothers, and they were born. They were all test tube babies. And in Mahabharata, is a literature, is a history that was composed in 100,000 verses or texts. So you can read it for lifetimes. So Duryodhan didn't want that to happen. So he tried many times to exile the Pandavas, to kill them, but nothing worked, and they came back. So finally he arranged for a gambling match, playing dice, and he had his uncle Shakuni, who would influence him, who influenced the match, rigged the match basically, and Yudhishthira was tricked into participating in it, and slowly down he went, that he lost everything, including himself and his brothers and also his wife. So Draupadi was lost, and she was dragged into the assembly, and when she was pleading for justice to all the great generals and Mahatmas who were present there, nobody could open their mouth and say anything, and in the dragged down by the illusion of pride and arrogance, the Duryodhan's brother Dushasan, under the order of Duryodhan, tried to disrobe Draupadi, which even now, after 5,000 years, nobody would dare do that. So this was happening to a queen who was a queen of the whole world. So, and we know that how when she decided that it's beyond her capacity to protect herself, and she raised her hand and called for the Lord, she got unlimited saris. As he pulled the saris, and the saris became a huge heap, but the saris wouldn't stop coming. So that is how Draupadi was helped by the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna by calling out his holy names, who was not personally present there, but who gave the help because of his holy name was sung. Then again, everything was settled, but it was agreed that the Pandavas should go to exile for 12 years, and then 1 year they have to live incognito, in disguise, and if they are found out in that year, they have to again repeat this. It becomes like an endless loop, 12 years of vanavas, or living in the forest, and then like this. So the Kauravas, so many things happened during the 12 years, and they were about to be found out when they were incognito, but the time was over, and after everything was done by Pandavas without even asking for anything, they came back and asked for land, which Duryodhan should have given his whole kingdom, but they asked, give me half kingdom, or at least 5 villages. So Duryodhan said, I wouldn't give you a drop of land into which you can drive a pin. So being Kshatriyas, they had no other option but to get into war, and in the war it was like Duryodhan's army was nearly 5-6 times more than the Pandavas, because they were in exile, they were not ruling in power, and they had a few people here and there who were against the Kauravas to support them, and that's it. And they had great generals, their own guru, whom they learned from, and their great grandfather, who is known as a powerful warrior in the world. Even before they were born, they had to fight against all of them, and all are assembled in the battlefield. At that time, Arjuna is asking Krishna, please take me in the middle and let me see the strength of the army so that I can plan my action. So when he goes there and he sees everything, his heart melts, and he says that how am I even here trying to fight them? Practically my whole relations are here, which means that they are ready to be killed by me. And I mean, am I a sane person? What am I doing? Why should I kill them for this piece of land? So he gets so dejected and depressed that he puts his bow and arrow down. He's not able to take a decision. He's confused. His mouth is dry. His tongue is sticking to the throat, and tears are flowing down. I mean, he's not an actor. He's the most intelligent and the most capable, powerful warrior, but he had a mental breakdown. At that point of time, in spite of his so much expertise and learning, he couldn't collect all of it to help him come out of that situation. So Lord Krishna was his charioteer, and he surrendered to him, telling, now I've lost my composure to think, so I'm surrendering to you. Please tell me what is good for me. So then starts the Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita is considered to be like an axle. Means if you see a chariot is chariot because it runs, because of the wheels. If there is no wheels, then it's not a chariot. But the wheel will not work if there is a small part called axle that keeps the whole wheel running and working together. So that is the position Veda Vyas have described to this Bhagavad Gita. If you take Bhagavad Gita out of Mahabharata, there is no Mahabharata at all. So why is it compared to an axle? Because Bhagavad Gita is only 700 verses and Mahabharata is 1,100,000 verses, and there are much more. The condensed version is 100,000. What is the percentage of 700 in 100,000 verses? But this is like an axle that runs the whole chariot. So that's what about Bhagavad Gita. And many times, even before me reading Bhagavad Gita, I have grown up learning that there is a Greek mythology called Iliad and Odyssey, and there is Indian mythology called Ramayana and Mahabharata. So if you think of Mahabharata, such civilized people are there. I mean, so much of civilization, so much of noble characteristics, and all these things could just be a mythology, or is it like came out of somebody's imagination, like J.K. Rowling thought about Harry Potter and made a series like that way? Is it somebody who made a imagination stories so that to teach us some values between good and evil and what to know? That's what I learned. I was taught in school. All the stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata, they are termed as mythology. But interestingly, 200 years before, nobody would think it is a mythology, because I recently saw there were around 1 million Gurukulas. That is how the whole Indian system was, that everybody learned through Gurukulas and everybody had touch with their language, Sanskrit, and the scriptures, and they grew up like that. I remember my grandmother telling me that her grandmother's time, every day in the evening, they would light up lamps and either read Ramayana or Mahabharata. So they have grown listening to this. But because of some historians during the during the Britishers and the Mughals, after the Mughal who came, so they couldn't figure out that 5,000 years ago, that means 3000 BC, it's not possible for a man to be civilized and even wearing clothes. He's a Stone Age man, killing each other for eating and living in caves. So they think that this is mythology. But lot of that view has changed, and you see majority of the facts that prove that this thing is wrong. And one major evidence for this is the archaeological facts that you find throughout India in a place called Kurukshetra, where if you dug deep down, they find even armors and the war materials that can be carbon dated, and they are finding it close to 5,000 years. And under near the Gujarat Kutch thing, where there is Dwaraka is there, they find that a whole city is submerged, a completely well-planned city with lots of things, lots and lots of things, and so much research is going on. And throughout, what the Mahabharata says, throughout all the places, they are doing archaeological survey and things, and finding out so many things that is closely related to the dates that is mentioned in the Mahabharata. So just because we are at that, science is reaching there, and eventually one day they would find out that it's common for the science means we are researching. So when I was reading, I read in the science book that Pluto is one of the planet. There were 9 planets. Now my sons they are reading it's 8 planets. So many things have changed. 500 years before, they believed the world was flat. Now they found out that world is round. Whereas in the scriptures, always our globe is represented as Bhugol. So there are so many evidences, and even logically we can see that these are not mythology. Why am I even making this point? Because if we think that this is mythology, then I shouldn't be wasting your time to read this mythology. We might as well read some novels. So it is not mythology. There are so many evidences for it, and it's and it is not. And why they call it? They couldn't figure out that 5,000 years ago such civilized things could be there, because at the end of each yuga, there is mass destruction that is mentioned there, and after the mass destruction, slowly it starts again. The civilization starts again, because so many millions of people were killed in the Mahabharata war. And then it was like, it is this, we will read about it in the time factor, what is the yugas and when is the creation and annihilation takes place. So it is possible that after the mass destruction and after everything start, it took some time. So we have, modern history doesn't have enough thing before. Even they have only maximum 500,000 years, or maybe maximum 2,000 years. But beyond, before that, you don't have any ways to find out whether anything existed or not. It is their inference. So if it is their inference, then we infer from the scriptures telling that these things are not mythology. This has really happened. And especially, if you go to many, I have toured many temples in the south of Tamil Nadu and Kerala, where there are temples where it is mentioned that the Pandavas, especially Arjuna, visited during the exile and what happened. We have stone relics explaining why the temple happened. Like this, millions and millions of evidences to prove that this really happened. Okay, so next is, so who, if it is not mythology, who are the source of this knowledge? So the source of the knowledge are sages, and they are spiritual scientists. Like as much as the scientists, they are there now. What do the scientists do? They observe, then they do experiment, they observe, and then they infer the result. And then when the result is tangible and it is continuous, it is constant, then a theory is made. So science means scrutinizingly studying something with the measures that we have, so that we know that that is the truth. So the sages were also spiritual scientists, and they also used 3 ways of acquiring this knowledge. So what are the 3 ways? First is pratyaksha praman. Pratyaksha means something that is acquired through our senses, that which we experience. For example, the sun. When you are very young and you're just seeing the sun for some first time, like 5-6 years old, and then what I think that, oh, sun is, yeah, I can see the sun in the sky, and the sun is like this size. It is true, because when I measure from here, the sun is in my hand. But then, because I have the knowledge that I know that sun is not like this, sun is so many billions of miles far away, and it is a planet that is emanating light, and it's such an inexhaustible source of energy. So the data that I get through my senses, that is pratyaksha praman, which I know is false. So the first pramana, you could get some things that is true in that, but it could be misleading, because you see that our senses are imperfect, and we could be misled about the facts, which we will see in the next slide. So the next pramana means evidence. So next pramana is called anumana. Anumana means inferring. If you don't experience it directly, but you infer it from the result. So for this, the Darwin's theory, how it did come about, because the Darwin, they found some jaw bones, and they found that the bones of the monkeys, and then how it evolved, and then they made a theory that one of the monkeys and the human being are coming from the same species. So they were not there at that time when it happened, but it is an inference. So like that way, for example, if I have to give you a layman example, that I go, if I have to go to previously, now Corona time, no parties, nothing. It looks like, in those olden days, we used to party together. So I'm going to a friend's house, and when I arrive late, I see like 5 slippers. Then I know that, okay, there are 5 people inside and they are all my friends. I could be wrong. This is an inference I'm making. I didn't see who is there inside, but I'm making an inference by seeing something, a result of something, which could be true, that there may be 3 people inside, or it may be, old shoes of the people who are there inside. It could be so much possibilities are there. So, for example, another thing, okay, let me explain you the Shabda Pramana. Shabda means hearing from an authoritative source. And then Shabda means hearing or sound vibration. All of us inadvertently have followed this, because when I first went to kindergarten or first grade, I learned 1 + 1 = 2. I didn't question at that time why 1 + 1 = 2, because if I don't accept that, then I cannot go further. So first I accept A is something like this. This is called A. But I didn't question why this kind of a letter is A and not something else. Why this letter is T and not something else. So first we get knowledge through Shabda, and then in the PhD level, you can prove the thesis that 1 + 1 = 2, or how the script of the language came about. You can all do the thesis and prove that. So the point is, first Shabda Pramana, if we accept, then through Pratyaksha and Anumana, that can be verified. And this is the method that is followed by the sages. Now, I would like to give an example that my teacher taught me. It is like this. Say, I like Rasagulla very much, and first time when I eat that, I wanted to try to make that. So I follow the first thing, Pratyaksha Praman. So I see the Rasagulla, it's a white ball, it is spongy, and I taste it, it is sugary. So with all this perception that it is white, it is spongy, it is tasty, it is syrupy, and all these things, I'm going to try to make a Rasagulla. And in the second thing, what I do is I take the Rasagulla and try to infer the nutritional value of it. It has this much carbohydrate, this much protein, this much thing, and it should have, the ingredients should be this, according to this. And I guess, by eating, I guess it should have this much of paneer. I know that, but if I don't know that, for example, some milk, it has a milky taste, it has a sugary taste. So then, I try to come up with a formula and I make it. And the third one is, I go to the cook who made it and I ask him, can you please share me the recipe? And I make it. So that is Shabda Praman, that I ask from an authority, not just anyone, a person who has cooked that Rasagulla, and I take the recipe and finally I do it. That is Pratyaksha with my senses. And then I taste it. Then I see, which one do you think is, it's obviously, you would like to taste my Rasagulla that I made in the Shabda Pramana way, means trying to get the recipe from a cook. So that is what the sages did. They got the knowledge through the Vedas from a disciplic succession, from a succession of spiritual scientists, and then they experienced it themselves. Then they presented it to their next generation, and the next generation accepted it as much as we accepted 1 + 1 = 2, and the letter A is this, they accepted, and then they experimented it and they found that it worked. Okay, so that is the spiritual science, how it works. And if you see that in the Pratyaksha Pramana, why does it not work perfectly well? Because we have imperfect senses. Can you see, what can you see in this? Someone may just see a tree. Is there anything else you could see too? Sorry?
There are national leaders.
Yes. So you see, you can see the national leaders made into a tree. So you see that this is called optical illusion. One time, when you are seeing the leaders, you cannot see the tree. When you're seeing the tree, you cannot see the leaders. I mean, you can see. So the point is the senses could be misleading. This is just an example because we are imperfect. Whatever we see is not exactly the truth. So what are the three other defects that we have? The four faults that the human beings has is we have imperfect senses and we have a tendency to commit mistakes. As far as I know, I have not come across anyone in the world who can claim that I have not done any mistake so far. Have you come across anyone? So everybody has a tendency to commit mistakes. That means we are fallible. And we have a cheating propensity. What do you mean by cheating propensity? You may, say, come on, I'm not having a cheating propensity. But the point is, we like to put up a show that something that is required by the general society or our friends. For example, if I go to a party and I know the theme of the party, even though I may not know very well what they're talking about, I like to talk in a way so that they understand that, okay, she knows something. So we always have a propensity to put up something that may be true, that may not be true, that may be a little exaggerated. So that propensity is there in minute quantity in everyone. It may vary, but eventually we have that. And then we are subject to illusion. Illusion means thinking something that is wrong to be right. This misleading that happens so many times with so many misunderstandings, that's how misunderstandings come about and relationships break. Because we think something that we think is right, we cannot accept it as wrong because we are conditioned by that illusion. But Vedas are infallible. The word Veda means a body of knowledge. And why there is a term, are you whatever you why should I accept whatever you say? Are whatever you're saying are Vedas? This is a term that you would have heard if you have grown up hearing these terms. So why? Because Vedas are not written by any human being who are subject to these four faults. So that's why the Vedas are called Apaurushaya. Paurushaya means one who's coming from a human being. Apaurushaya means it has a source that is not from a human being, who are fallible beings, who is subject to these four defects. So Veda means it's a body of knowledge, and Veda also is a manual for the world. You buy something, you get an instruction booklet, like what to do with that, how you assemble it, how it works, everything. So we are in this world and the world is created. How can we understand that it's of no purpose? No, there is a manual, what you have to do in this world, how you have to live in this world, and how to, so many how to and why to questions are answered in the Vedas. But the problem now is, are we getting access to this Vedas? The history says that you all must have heard about the University of Nalanda and Takshashila, and they were filled of Vedas, and Vedas is so huge a body that, the whole of the libraries were filled with so much of books of which are original manuscripts of Vedas are written down and passed down for generations, and all those were burnt. And it took 1 month to burn them down. And whatever was left unburnt, they were taken to the West, and that's how, so many things came about. So that's about Vedas. But since to learn the Vedas, you should have a lot of training. There is a meter to sing the Vedas, and the Vedas are made up of Vedanta Sutra is very highly evolved Sanskrit language, and you need a teacher to explain it what it is and the practical application of it. Come on, none of us have grown up in Gurukula or have this background to access them. Now what we can do, there are some people who are teaching the Vedas, and we can we can learn to sing them in a particular meter. I know that's coming about, but the vastness of it and our accessibility and practicality, I mean, it's beyond our thing now. But the Lord Krishna, God, who's our intimate friend, is most merciful. So what he has done, he has did the essence of the Vedas in the Bhagavad Gita. So you have Shruti and Smriti. In the Shruti or Vedas, we have Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka, and Upanishad. What each of them is another seminar of it. We will not go into it. Smriti is something that which Vedas are applied, and there is Sutras and Puranas, and there is Ramayana and Mahabharata and Manusmriti. And in Mahabharata, you have Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And why is Bhagavad Gita so essential when there are thousands of other books in the Vedas? Because of this. Sarvo Upanishado Gavo, Dogda Gopala Nandanaha, Partho Vatsaha Sudhir Bhokta, Dugdam Gita Mritam Mahat. All the Upanishads are like a cow. And the milker of the cow is Sri Krishna, the son of Nanda. Arjuna is the calf. The beautiful nectar of the Gita is the milk. And the fortunate devotees of fine devotional intelligence are the drinkers and enjoyers of that milk. So that if all the Vedas, Upanishads are texts, Upa and Nishad means that the concept of the Vedas is discussed, or like guidebooks, discussed by a seeker, a questioner, and a Sishya and a Guru, sitting close by and discussing. So it's like a guidebook for the Vedas, and there are 108 Upanishads, and Bhagavad Gita is also called Gita Upanishad. And if all the Upanishads are taken to be a cow, milk is the essence of the cow. And who is milking that? Krishna is milking that cow, and Arjuna is the calf. But because of Arjuna drinking, all of us are having. So indirectly, if we read Bhagavad Gita, we are reading the essence of all the Vedas. In fact, whatever is there in the Vedas, we cannot say that everything is there in Bhagavad Gita, but the essence of all the things is there. So you see, tens and thousands of Vedic aphorisms are compressed in 2 shlokas by the Lord. So we know the purpose of the Vedas by reading Bhagavad Gita. Okay, the next question is, why do people not read Bhagavad Gita? Why I did not read Bhagavad Gita before? You know why? Because I always thought it's hard to understand, because it's so confusing and contradictory. It's a metaphysical science. So, I mean, something in a gray area. I thought it was like that. And if you cannot even hard to understand, forget about practicing. So, and what I say, I mean, when I grew up, I saw a movie in which Bhagavad Gita, the hero, the counselor of the hero is giving Bhagavad Gita to the hero to read it when he is not able to enjoy with the heroine. There is a particular period that he needs to be alone, according to the astrology or something. So, at that point of time, he is given a Bhagavad Gita. And when that was a scene I saw, and then after that period is over, the next scene is he can enjoy with the heroine. So at that time, what he does, he throws the Bhagavad Gita on the bed or on the sofa, and I saw that. So what do you get from this? So Bhagavad Gita, if I read, that will stop my enjoyment. Then, I mean, people who want to renounce life, they read Bhagavad Gita. So that's what, we see that Bhagavad Gita is for old people reading that. So I don't want to renounce life. I don't want to stop my enjoyment, and I want to do something tangible. So that is something, that people are afraid. Most people have Bhagavad Gita book, but very rarely they take it out of the shelf and read it, because they think of all these things. And then superstition. There is a superstition. They say, if you have a Krishna deity, take off the flute. Why? Because Krishna will blow away your wealth with the flute, as though he doesn't have any wealth. He lifted the whole Govardhan hill, and he has thousands of Lakshmis at his service. What your poor wealth is going to do to him? Okay, and they say that don't read Mahabharata, because then you will also have fighting in the house. As though without reading Bhagavad Gita, there is no fighting in the house. So all these superstitions, whether the knowledge is passed down or not, superstition is widely passed down. And then it is for old age people, when your senses are not able to enjoy, and you don't want to interfere with your son and daughter-in-law, daughter and son-in-law, this thing, they give you a Bhagavad Gita. This is for you. Take it now and be satisfied. And so these are all the things that people think about Bhagavad Gita. And in fact, to be honest, I also thought the same thing. that, why to read Bhagavad Gita on top of this, something like this. This is such a bad PR of Bhagavad Gita. Whatever happened was good. Whatever happening is also good. Whatever will happen, that will also be good. Is coronavirus good? What did you lose that you're crying for? What did you bring? So the point is, I've been reading humbly Bhagavad Gita. It's just like the goat nibbling on the top of the grass. But even in that, I can honestly say that I read maybe 20-25 times, and I've listened to so many lectures, but I have not found one shloka where this is there. The essence of Gita is there. The thing is, already people are frustrated and depressed. And when you read this, do you have any inclination to read, go and say, go and do something? This is like putting water on your fire. If nothing is mine, why should I even work? Change is there, that is true. So it is not. This is one side of it. What Krishna is telling, the reality of this world. But what Krishna is side by side telling, the reality of the eternality of the soul and the eternality of the spiritual world and the tangible blissful taste that you can get side by side. So this is one side of it, or maybe the author did not understand what is the real message in it. So message of the Bhagavad Gita is pessimistic about the reality of this world, but it is optimistic about how you can be happy and perform your duties in a blissful way, even though you are in this world of uncertainties and ever changing. That's what Arjuna did, right? If Arjuna were to read this, already he was depressed. Do you think ever he would have fought the war? In fact, he was so depressed, he didn't want to fight the war. But after hearing the Bhagavad Gita with attention, with sincerity, with an open mind, he got all energy and enthusiasm to fight the war for the right purpose. So that is what Bhagavad Gita is doing to us. So what do you get from reading Bhagavad Gita? So these basic $1 million questions, which we have kept aside for so long, these will be answered. What is this? Who am I? What is this body? I have a healthy body, but somebody has a sick body. Why it is that? I have a body with, I have a backache. Others have a headache. This person has a leg ache. So many differences. What is the reason for all this? And what is mind? Is there something called a mind? And how does the mind work? Who is God? Am I created by someone really, or did I come about on my own? And is there really a God? And there are tens and thousands of temples. And if there is a God, what is my relationship with him? Because I don't see him. I am not connected to him. What is my relationship with him? If there is a God, is he one or many? Is he Allah, Buddha, Yahweh, Lord Shiva, Ganesha, Kartikeya, Parvati, Durga, or hundreds of others? Is he one or is he many? If he is one, why there are so many different aspects of him and so many different parts to this? And if everything, is there nobody in control, or are we under perfect control? There are seemingly good people, and why bad things happen to them? And how is this world functioning? And why do I have to die? I don't like to get disease. I don't like to be old, get old age. I want to be always young with youthful energy. And I don't want to die, and I don't want others to die also, who's near and dear to me. But why all these things are happening? Why am I ragged like this, constantly changing situation? And do I live for eternity? Did I live before before my birth? And will I continue to live in after my death? What is the proof for it? So why these things are matter to you? Because these all look like gray areas. It's not like the recent technology that you can use to give your salary, or something that the coding courses, or it's not that you get the immediate tangible benefit. But the point is, it is about ourselves, how we work, where are we situated, how everything around works. If we don't do this, it's like reading a novel from page 15 to page 55 in a 200 page novel. We don't know the beginning, we don't know the end. We are created, we are born. Why are we born to in a particular family, in a particular country, in a particular race? And why are we having some things? If we don't know the answers for this, it is like, you know, if you go to a plane, if you want to book a flight to someone, first is source and destination and the date of travel. Then you get some options for booking tickets. But here, life is a journey. We neither know where we came from. We have no idea where we are going to go. So how can we live a successful life? So this knowledge is not going to stop you from earning your salary, or not going to stop you from going ahead in your career life, or not going to put water in your fire of enthusiasm to earn money to live a comfortable life. But what this knowledge is giving is something that you can cultivate side by side of those things that you're doing as a duty for your material life. So how does this knowledge help us practically? We become positive thinkers, because the whole of Bhagavad Gita is about, see, Arjuna was in the most desperate, most dejected situation, that he has to choose between life and death of himself and others also. But he was thinking positively and taking a good, right course of action. So right now, when the world and we are bogged down by so much uncertainties, it's very important to stay positive and stay high in spirits. And we will not be superficially, you know, I mean, just like from TED Talks or propping up, okay, be strong, be positive, with no foundation. Not like that. Bhagavad Gita gives a foundation of why and how you can be strong. And leaders are made. There are, I mean, ordinary people are who succumb to the situations, but leaders are those people who can always think out of the box. And not only can they be out of the situation, they can lead the whole world also. And we become emotionally stable in spite of emotionally drenching situations. And finally, we would become joyful human beings. And Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyaksha Vagamam Dhanyam Sukham. Krishna, God, wants us to make supremely joyful human beings. So that's how it helps practically. And here is a list of famous thinkers who have praised the Bhagavad Gita. So let's see what Thomas Merton have told. The Bhagavad Gita brings to the West a salutary reminder that our highly activistic and one-sided culture is faced with a crisis that many end in self-destruction because it lacks the inner depth of an authentic metaphysical consciousness. Without such depth, our moral and political protestations are just so much verbiage. So then we have Hermann Hesse. He says that the wonderful thing about the Bhagavad Gita is that an untaught, experienced wisdom is revealed in it as a helping grace. This beautiful revelation, this life's wisdom, this philosophy blossomed into religion is what we seek and what we need. So if you see this Henry Thoreau, he is a famous thinker. You can Google about him. I bathe my intellect in the vast and cosmogonal philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita, in comparison with which our modern world and its literature seem puny and trivial. The reader is nowhere raised into and sustained. The reader is now here, I think there's a typo, raised into and sustained in a higher, purer or rarer region of thought than in the Bhagavad Gita. Oh yeah, it's true. So, I mean, nowhere else you can see a knowledge and a science that can rise your consciousness. So yeah, I don't have time to read all this. Yeah, that balance of mind, which a few highly civilized individuals such as Arjuna, the hero of the Bhagavad Gita, can maintain in action is difficult for most of us, even as observers. that is knowledge is available in the Bhagavad Gita. The last, I will read about Albert Einstein. When I read Bhagavad Gita, the only question left is how God created the universe. Everything else seems to be superfluous. Yeah, so Mahatma Gandhi, we cannot, we have grown up seeing the Gandhi with a picture of Gita. So he says, I find a solace in the Bhagavad Gita that I miss even in the Sermon on the Mount. When disappointments stare me in the face and all alone, I see not one ray of light, I go back to the Gita. I find a verse here and a verse there, and I immediately begin to smile in the midst of overwhelming tragedies. And if they have left no visible, no indelible scar on me, I owe it all to the teaching of Bhagavad Gita. And we know what Mahatma Gandhi did, what his iron will was, and you see his secret. So yeah, so I think
Escape button.
okay, yeah, so that's it for today, and we will end here. And I think I'm 5 minutes over time, so I saw somebody raising hands. We have 10 more minutes for questions. You can either type it in the chat box or you can raise your hands, and we can unmute you. So this is just a introduction to Bhagavad Gita, what it is and what it is not, so that we will go ahead further. And I recommend that everyone has a copy of Bhagavad Gita as it is. And we have a course, the course coordinator. Do you want to say about that, Priti Vilasini Mataji?
Yeah. So thank you all so much for joining us today. And this is going to be an 8-week course. And we highly recommend that you also have the Bhagavad Gita with you, the Bhagavad Gita and a couple of other books. It's going to be a starter kit that will help you understand this knowledge better as you're attending the classes. So we'll put details on the WhatsApp group so that you can contact us in case you want to purchase the book. We'll help you get it. We will ship it to your homes. Thank you.
Yeah, so we highly recommend this because we want to share this. This is possible. This knowledge is brought to you possible because of the voluntary service of so many teachers of mine. And I also want to do the same thing. But we all have one common teacher whom we are learning from, that is Sri Krishna. And if we have to give some Guru Dakshina to him, I would recommend that, we would send details about the course material. We have selected 3 books for it, and we can ship it to you. And if you already have a copy of Bhagavad Gita, please try to get one to support us in this noble cause of distributing as many Bhagavad Gitas as possible, and you can give it as a gift to someone. Okay. Is there any questions anybody wants to ask?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranams. Such a beautiful 101 on Bhagavad Gita, Mataji. Thank you so much. I just have one question, Mataji. I was wondering, like you were saying that, the scientists conduct the experiments and then, make some inferences from what they did, from what their results are, and, come to some kind of a conclusion. So we also know that, humans are subject to 4 defects. So you also mentioned that this knowledge has come down, for centuries, through sages. So what's the probability that these sages couldn't go wrong, and they were also subject to these 4 senses? So why should one accept the experiments conducted by the sages versus not accept the modern theories?
Oh, wonderful question. Wonderful thought-provoking questions. And thank you so much. I know you are a veteran in Bhagavad Gita and the higher literatures also, more higher advanced level of Bhagavad Gita. So So the answer to this is the source of the knowledge that we will be covering in the next session. Who is qualified to teach this Bhagavad Gita and how it has come down in an unchanged format. So it's like this. What the sages did was, they did not try to manufacture anything, because the source, if something that I write, then that is subject to these 4 defects, because I have these 4 defects. But something that I learn and pass it, but it doesn't have these 4 defects, then even if I am defective, I present it as it is up to my capacity, then it remains pure. So what the sages did, they took from the Vedas, and we saw that Vedas are beyond these 4 imperfect senses, because Vedas was not created by any human being. And how did it come? The source of the Vedas is none other than the sound vibration of the Supreme Lord. It is mentioned in the Vedas itself that the Vedas came from the breathing of the Lord. And the Lord is considered to be transcendental and absolute and beyond fallibility. So he says, Dvavimau Purushau Loke Sharash Chakshara Evacha. So there are 2 kinds of being, Kshara and Akshara. Kshara is fallible and Akshara is infallible. Ksharaha Sarva Bhutana. Whoever in this world is having these 4 defects is infallible. Kutasto Kshara Uchyate. But those who are beyond this world and things that are beyond this world is Akshara, are infallible. Because that's what Krishna is going to say. Because whatever he's saying is like an axiomatic truth. For example, if you have a GPS and then you say that you go to this place and then you take this turn, if half of the map you go, you know already, then you agree that the next half is also right. So Krishna uses this technique, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityu, as sure as death. That we know is sure. We don't see people living for 300 years. Dhruvam janmam mritasya cha. He says, just as the death is sure that you know, I'm telling you one more thing, birth is sure for the person who's dead. So in this concept, he's telling, you know that everybody is fallible here. I'm telling you there is one world which is infallible, and anything that is source in that infallible nature is infallible. But what is the beauty of that infallibility is that when it is passed down through the chain of the disciplic succession, and if I don't interpret it, I don't add or delete it, then the purity is maintained, and that is what is making the experiment and the result of the sages different from the scientists. And the things that are told in the Vedas are not subject to the changes as much as the research in the science field does. I don't know if it answers.
Thank you, Mataji, so much for your kind answer. Yeah, it does answer, Mataji, my question. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. You must be having different levels of answers. My humble obeisances to you, Mataji. Okay, so anybody else has any questions? Are you going to read the chapters too during these sessions? We can plan it that way. So if I have to, I can do it in the screen. For example, next class we are planning to do introduction. So I would screen some of the things that are there in Bhagavad Gita, but it will help very much if you have the book and I can tell you the page number and we can go through that. That can be done. At least not everything, but some things that we are covering, some shlokas, some sections related to that, we can definitely read. Thank you, Rachna Mataji. Can we get a PDF of today's slides for the reference? Yeah, I'll have to discuss that with the course coordinator and you can write to her, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. I do have a question, Mataji. Beautiful session. Mataji, so just like how Lord Krishna had explain the whole Bhagavad Gita in a capsule form. So all of the Vedas are given in a capsule form to Arjuna. In the same way, was there any other person who had narrated it who had explained it in this condensed form across the world, across the various different civilizations?
Yeah, I mean, if you have, I have a friend who has done an impartial reading of major, I mean, at least texts like Bible and Quran. I mean, are you asking with reference to that or other Vedic texts?
Across the world, yes.
Across the world. Okay, yeah. So definitely you see the principles are there. It's the same. I mean, I invite everyone to get a copy and read that. The way it is presented may be different, but the principles are the same. It's as much as Srila Prabhupada explained that 2 + 2 = 4 is the same in a second grader's book, and it is true in a thesis person's thesis also, because it doesn't change, right? There it doesn't become 2 + 2 = 5. Similarly, the basic concepts of how this world is temporary, and I mean there are so many endless concepts are there to list, but the basic concepts are the same throughout all the literatures. But the special standard of Bhagavad Gita is that you can find things that is like a postgraduate study, that is like a that you can pursue after reading the other literatures, other civilizations, holy books also. So Srila Prabhupada compared this to a dictionary. I mean, now it's going to be extinct, that word, but previously we all used to, when we read, we use dictionary for referring. So a 6th grader, a high school, has a dictionary, and there is a concise Oxford dictionary that is this thick. But the high school student has a dictionary that is this thick. Whatever is present in this dictionary is definitely present in the concise, complete dictionary. But whatever is not present, more also can find in that. So that is a specific standard of the Bhagavad Gita. There is no contradiction. The message is the same, that if we need to know about ourselves and about God scientifically, theoretically, if he is there, and develop a relationship with him, and if we can love him, that is a goal of all the religious texts. If we can do that, then our life is successful. So that's kind of, I mean, I don't know if it answers. That's what I have heard in my teachers' classes.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Yes, that does help explain it.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dandavad Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you so much. It's always pleasure to listen from you, Mataji.
You would have listened this so many times, Mataji. You would have listened this so many times.
Yeah. But always it's like very nice, Mataji, to know all the points. It's like refreshing. Very nice class, Mataji. Thank you so much for doing this for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji.
We have 2 more chat questions.
Yeah, okay. So from Nidhi Sahni Mataji, yeah, okay, we'll look forward to some in chapter shloka readings too. Okay, thank you, Mataji. From Shreya Mataji, why didn't Krishna explain Gita to Duryodhana? And because he can convince Duryodhana, he should have instead of Arjuna. Okay, that's a good question, and we are going to address this question in the coming session. It's like this: if you want to enroll yourself for a one-to-one session with a medical teacher, say for example you're preparing for your semester exams, you're in the 4th semester in your medical thing, and you're preparing for that, and you want tuition lessons on that. So what is the basic prerequisites for that? That you would have completed the first 3 semesters, and you are a medical student, and all these things, the teacher will ask. So especially one-to-one session, if you are on a subject, then they say that, have you completed the previous levels? Are you enrolled student? Then the teacher would agree to, get further, explain further for that. But Duryodhan, what he did, he didn't want to accept what Krishna was trying to tell him even before this Gita when he came to explain to Duryodhana that let us stop this war. First, Sanjaya went for peace mission, but Krishna said, let me myself go. He's a person, who has lifted the Govardhan hill and for whom impossible is not in his dictionary. So he said, I will go and talk to Duryodhana and try to tell him that let's have a peaceful solution for this without having a war. But did Duryodhana listen? No, you know what he did? He tried to trap Krishna by making him sit on a chair. He gave a special simhasan to that chair that when Krishna comes and puts his hand, it goes down. And what he arranged that, like how he killed Mushtika and Chanura, there were 100 or 1,000 wrestlers ready to pounce on Krishna when he falls underground. All these things he arranged. And what he did, he thinks that Krishna is some extraordinary person, but I will trap him. He is the person who is behind the strength of these Pandavas. Without him, we will not have war at all. Because if he is dead, Pandavas will die automatically. And so Krishna went and sat, and it went down. But there, he started showing his Vishwarupa. He started growing his form. Because we are conditioned under material nature. I cannot become 6 feet tall. And I cannot become 2 feet short. That means I am conditioned. I am under the laws of material nature. But God's one aspect is he can increase his form whenever he wants. He can decrease. Even yogis can do that. Who's blessed? What about God? So he, took his Vishwarupa, not full Vishwarupa, but he increased his form, his size, and he crushed all the wrestlers in one stamping. And he came out and he showed Duryodhana, what are you trying to do to me? I am not the one what you think. I am not, who can show that thing. And you can see how this has happened. A rishi meditated on this and he wanted to see that form of Krishna, 35 feet tall form of Krishna sitting on the Simhasan. And that you can see in a place called Kanchipuram near Chennai. It's called Pandava Duta Perumal, and you can see the beautiful form of the Lord, 35 feet high, sitting with his veins and the dhoti folds and the designs in the dhoti, everything, because he gave darshan to that rishi, and then a king built a big temple there. So the point is, Duryodhana was not willing to listen. So what about Krishna? So many people told him, don't do this, Duryodhana. Even in the last day, Krishna was trying to tell Duryodhana, but even when he lost everyone, except when he was there also, he was not willing to listen. So does that answer, Shreya Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, thank you. So anything, I think we are running out of time, 9:21. Anything else? Any other questions? Okay, so if there are no questions, we can end the call. I pay my respects to all the teachers, especially to my Varkama Pradakshaka Guru, from whom I learnt this. So when I was in the final years of high school, I attended a course, a 7-day course, 8 days course, and each day 1 hour was, I had so many of my questions answered. So I pray, I offer this as a humble offering to all the teachers. And of course, you also know many things. It's my humble attempt to each other. I personally thank all of you for attending this. Thank you very much. So we can end the session here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Thank you
Mataji.
so
Hare
much,
Krishna.
Mataji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Namo Namah. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Lalitangi Mataji ki jai. Thank you, Mataji.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Mataji, for the class.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna.